on Sunday, man? I know you're nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. Beat Buck.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron Show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little cleared. But we're joined by Pat Donovan.
It looks like Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like we got a little...
No, my camera's broke.
Howdy ho, howdy hey, how the hell are you? Hey, welcome back. Buccateers podcast, Tampa Tones, alongside the great Stunna in the house. Stunna, how the hell you doing, brother? We're gonna dive.
Yay. We good.
We're gonna dive into this offensive coordinator search, my friend. Are you excited?
I am.
And we're gonna get into all the latest and greatest with the candidates. Who's in, who's out, who got hired, who we might have been looking to interview, who got added to the list, who got axed from the list, who got axed from the coaching staff, as one coach did get the golden boot today, and so much more here on this beautiful Monday edition of the Buccateers. It is the off season, so we thank you guys so much for being with us here today on the Buccateers, and we got a great show coming your way. Stunna and Tampa Tones here, getting you the latest and greatest on our coaching search and all the other good stuff with the Bucs. Stunna, first and foremost, haven't really talked to you since, but what's your thoughts on needing to replace the offensive coordinator spot for now his second season in a row? Todd Bowles hit such a good home run with Canales that he got the head coaching job in Carolina, and now here we are looking a new offensive coordinator dead set in the eyes for a third straight season. Stunna, how do you feel about that? Third offensive coordinator in 3 years for this Bucs team.
Well, 3 years ago we had a head coach changed. I mean, it's a better feeling now because last year was like we replaced him because of failure, and then this year it's like we have to replace him because of a promotion. So you feel a little bit better about the situation. Bottom line is, it's like any industry, any business. It's hard to keep people when their name gets out there and they're doing a good job. And we just got to do our best in the search. It feels real familiar. It feels like last offseason. And, I trust in Jason Light and Todd Bowles to make an informed decision. At the end of the day, football is very simple. It's about tackling and breaking up passes and completing passes and breaking tackles. And I think it's a lot to do with our roster, and I think the roster development is more of an issue. But we do need somebody competent who's good at game planning, preparation, and getting our guys in the best position to win and make plays. And I'm sure you got some candidates you like. I know I have some I do. But regardless, let's enjoy the process because it feels better when you're doing this because our guy got a head coaching job. Now we had to fire him because our offense was terrible. And so let's enjoy the success we had. We got a playoff win. We've won a home playoff game, a rarity in Bucs history. We got a division title, a rarity in Bucs history. So let's enjoy our success and let's prepare for the future, which is maybe not as bright as this season was.
Yeah, Stunna, and I think you make a couple of great points. First and foremost, it is different than last year, right? Because last year, this Bucs team had Tom Brady retiring. So who wants to come into a quarterback room where you have no idea what the hell's going to happen? You had Byron Leftwich getting fired. Never a great sign replacing someone who gets fired, right? That means that John might be in hot water to begin with. And we had a playoff loss last year. This year, you turn it around. We had a playoff win this year instead of a loss. We have Baker Mayfield in-house instead of a retiring Tom Brady. Obviously, Baker's a free agent, so we'll see how that goes if he gets brought back or whatnot. And then we had, Dave Canales get a promotion instead of getting fired. So I think you hit the nail on the head there, Stun. A lot of differences between this offseason.
It feels better to turn around Baker's career than to waste Brady's last season, doesn't it?
Yeah, and exactly. We turned around Baker's career here, and we have Dominic DeGrazia joining us on Facebook. So much thank yous to him and everybody else joining us right now. But it really does feel a lot better, Stunna, when you replace a guy for good reason instead of bad reason. And you said you had your guys you like. I have mine I like. And I'm going to get to the chase here as the Buccaneers went into Friday night, went into Saturday's weekend with 5 offensive coordinators lined up to be potentially interviewing for the position. And we're going to go over that right now. Kellen Moore, former Chargers and Cowboys offensive coordinator, was lined up to interview. He took a job. He went to Philadelphia to coach over there. Ken Dorsey was lined up to interview. He ended up taking a job. He went to Cleveland. He got fired from Buffalo, so it might not have been a hot commodity, but he sure was as he went to Cleveland. And then you had Zach Robinson, the Atlanta Falcons new offensive coordinator. He got hired by the Falcons. He went with his buddy Raheem Morris. He was just the passing games coordinator. The quarterback's coach at the Rams. So those 3 who were on our original list have moved on. They already got offensive coordinator gigs, which leaves us just 2 from the original 5 still on the table, still in negotiations. That's Brian Johnson from the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's in-house candidate Tad Lewis from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those 2 are still very much so in play, and we're going to get into the new candidates here in a minute. As Pop says, is Byron completely out of football now? That's coming in from Twitter. Yes, he is coming. No, he's out of football. I mean, he's out of football completely, Byron Leftwich. And that's not really a surprise to anybody. I don't think any of us are surprised that Byron Leftwich is out of football. Stunna, we're going to go over our candidates now. The new ones, at least, is on Friday's show. J-Lo and I went over Thad Lewis and Brian Johnson. And if you guys missed Friday's show, go to YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcast, and so much more, and catch the show from Friday. But Stunna, we're going to start with Alex Van Pelt and his profiled background and what makes him a candidate. As it was reported yesterday or today that we were going to interview Alex Van Pelt, and he's going to get an in-person interview as soon as today. But Stunna, we're going to go over his background here. He was the 8th round draft pick in 1993. He played quarterback. He was a quarterback for the Steelers, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Buffalo Bills. He went to college in Pittsburgh, and then as a coach, he was a Frankfurt Galaxy quarterback coach in 2005. Went on to become the Buffalo Bills offensive quality control coach in 2006 and 2007. Buffalo Bills quarterbacks coach in 2008. He was the Bills offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach in 2009. Was actually the Bucs QB coach in 2010 and 2011. Green Bay running backs coach in 2012 and 13. Packers quarterback coach in 14, 15, 16, and 17. Bengals quarterbacks coach in 18 and 19. And then the Browns offensive coordinator from 20 to 23. And he does have overlap with Baker Mayfield in 20 and 21. So there is a connection there. Had a minor broadcasting career with John Murphy on Bills Radio Network until the 2005 season. So, he's had a lot of experience, player, announcer, coach-wise. Thoughts on Alex Van Pelt, Stunna, getting a shot or at least an interview for the Buccaneers offensive coordinator gig?
He's got a lot of experience. If he knows the Brian Daboll system, I don't know the guy's name for the Giants, the head coach. I think it's Daboll or something.
Brian Daboll, yes.
Daboll. Okay, so if he knows that system, that would be, that would be advantageous. He's not my number 1 pick, but he does have a history here, and I do remember when he played for Pittsburgh. He definitely, to me, he's more of a quarterback coach. He does a great job with quarterbacks, and I do like that aspect of it. but I want someone that's going to be exotic with X's and O's. So I would need to know more about his background with Brian Daboll before I made my make my consensus number one.
As
The guy I like is the guy. I think his name is Pez or something from the Rams.
Yeah, we're gonna get into all these guys here, and I'm kind of gonna go over their profiles, and we'll get into them. But since you brought him up, that is Jake Peetz. And Jake Peetz is another
Yes.
candidate that's confirmed to get an interview with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Jake Peetz has an extensive background as well. Now it's interesting because between Van Pelt, Thad Lewis, all those guys last week, Dorsey, Moore, Johnson, etc., all of them have one thing in similar. They've been quarterbacks in their years past. Here, Jake Peetz is strictly a coach, never played the quarterback position at college or NFL or other pro ball, but the background of Jake Peetz goes as followed here, Stunna. He has an extensive coaching background. In 2006, Jake Peetz was a Santa Barbara City College special teams coordinator, safeties coach, and strength and conditioning coordinator. In 2007, he went to UCLA as a defensive assistant, so Pete is familiar with both sides of the ball. And then he took 5 years off because he became a pro scout for the Jaguars from 2008 to 2011. He became a scout. But then in 2012, he coaching world. He was the Jaguars assistant quarterbacks coach in the year of 2012. He went to Alabama in 2013 to become an offensive analyst. In 2014, he was an offensive quality control coach with the Washington Redskins. This is Jake Peetz for those just tuning in. In 2015, he went to the Oakland Raiders to be a senior offensive assistant. 2016, he became the assistant quarterbacks coach for the Raiders. 2017, the quarterbacks coach for the Raiders. 2018, offensive analyst for the Alabama Crimson Tide. 2019, he was a Panthers running backs coach. 2020, he was the Panthers quarterbacks coach. 2021 was LSU's offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. And then 2022 through now, passing game specialist for the LA Rams. And Pete is 39 years old. Thoughts on Jake Peetz? Done a kind of a topsy-turvy coaching career to this point. He's been around the block. He's had a lot of titles, had a lot of different aspects of the coaching world. What's your thoughts on Jake Peetz?
My thing is, if you remember during the Tony Dungy era, we needed to bring Gruden in so we could get over the Eagles hump. Now we need to get over the Detroit hump. And so, to me, who else is giving us problems? The Niners. So who is a team that is offensively able to get up and down and Detroit, and that's the LA Rams. Now I'm very upset that them jerks up in ATL got the one Rams coordinator that was on the market, or the one Rams assistant. Yes. So I would like to get someone out of that Rams tree that knows the Rams system, because to me the Rams are the ones that have showed the best against the Detroit secondary. So I definitely want someone from the Rams tree if possible. Now, if you can't, you can't. You could always film study it up. But to me, the Rams system reminds me a lot of Gruden, and the crossing routes and the slants and whatnot, always having a moving route open to have a man beater basically available every play. And and that's why they've been able to get the production they have out of various receivers. And I like our number 1 and 2 receivers. So I want to see us utilize their talents. And I think that we need to go back to the West Coast offense. And so I want to see someone out of the Rams system, because I feel like the Rams are the best team as far as matching up. We, not personnel wise, but the player schematic wise against the Detroit and the 49ers.
Yeah, so that's 2 of the candidates so far. You make some good points on why a guy like Jake Peetz might be appealing. Hey, maybe get him over the hump a little bit. maybe execute a little bit better offensively against those teams like the Rams. You take a little bit from their playbook. And Stunna, what's interesting with Jake Peetz, much like Alex Van Pelt, Jake Peetz has a little bit of familiarity with Baker Mayfield, as they did overlap in 2022 with the Rams as well. So you're not only seeing experienced candidates get in, a lot of quarterback candidates get in, but you're also seeing now with Van Pelt and with Peetz, candidates who have been familiar with Baker Mayfield at least have had some overlap there. From Peetz and Van Pelt, we're going to continue to move on here as we do have two
And
other.
real quick, Coach, real quick, Tones, it's my understanding that Baker Mayfield had an input onto who they're, like he had to give the okay for anyone they're interviewing for the OC.
Yeah, and it makes sense that he would, or at least the Bucs, maybe not get the okay from him as he's technically not on the team, but maybe the Bucs would surely ask for his opinion and inputs, right? Maybe they'd be like, "Hey, who do you want to, you know, who would you like as your offensive coordinator?" And maybe they're bringing in those guys and very much so asking a guy like Baker Mayfield who he would like and appreciate as his offensive coordinator. Speaking of offensive coordinator, we got another candidate knocking on the door, Stunna, and that's former Buccaneers coach Antoine Randall. I like Randall a lot. 44-year-old wide receiver, went to Indiana. He was a second-round pick in 2002. Then he was a player for the Steelers and the Redskins, went back to Pittsburgh to end his career, and then Bruce Arians brought him aboard on his staff in 2019. That was his first coaching opportunity, was with the Bucs in 2019 and 2020 as an offensive assistant. He won a Super Bowl with us, of course, and then from 2021 through present, he's been a wide receiver coach with the Detroit Lions. Stunna, what's your thoughts on a guy like Antoine Randall? He is the first wide receiver coach that we plan on interviewing for the offensive coordinator gig. It's been a familiar themes of quarterback-minded guys, but here we dip into the wide receiver pool with the guy like Antoine Randall.
I'm a big fan of Antoine. I'm very happy with what he did for us and when we won the Super Bowl. And, he got out of them wide receivers at that, obviously the very talented wide receiver group we had for that team. And so I like Antoine. He was active in the community when he was here. And I would definitely be encouraged with him. Or I think a couple of years ago when we interviewed Keenan McCardell, guys like that, former players that, you remember playing and you see the great job they do as coaches as well. So yeah, man, I would mind seeing him. And he does give us an advantage coming from Detroit, so he would know the Detroit system. So he is another coach that can help us get over that hump, because we're going to need somebody that can help us beat. And honestly, Detroit, did a great job against the Niners defense as well. But if we're ever going to make it, we're going to have to be able to overcome Detroit and the 49ers. So he is another coach that could help us in that regards.
Yeah, and he has a very good history, and he actually interviewed with the Bucs on Friday, but it just came out today. He did a over-the-computer interview with the Bucs. Obviously, Detroit was a little busy this weekend. They had a date lined up in San Fran, so Randall L. made some time on Friday to zoom in with the Buccaneers and get some good opportunity of interviewing there. So we've talked about Alex Van Pelt. We've talked about Jake Peetz, and now we talked about Antoine Randall on Friday's show. We talked about some of the other candidates as well, including Thad Lewis and including Brian Johnson. We talked about both of those guys as well on Friday because they're both still in the mix of things too. And we have one more guy in the mix to talk about, Stunna, and that is 35-year-old quarterbacks coach for the Houston Texans, former NFL quarterback Gerard Johnson. He had an incredible year working with C.J. Stroud over in Houston, and his background resume is pretty impressive as well. At the young age of 35, he went to Texas A&M, was an undrafted free agent in 2011. Then he played his rookie year for the Eagles, 2012 with the Steelers, 13 with Seattle, 14 with the Bears, 2016 with the Ravens, and the Cowboys. And then as a coach, he started with San Fran 49ers in 2017, was a Bill Welsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship. In 2019 with the Indianapolis Colts, he had the same role there. Then in 2020 to 2021, he was an offensive quality control coach with the Indianapolis Colts. In 2022, an assistant quarterbacks coach with the Vikings. And then in 2023, Houston Texans quarterbacks coach. And he has a prolific career background and all of that stuff. So he had a father, Larry Johnson, who also played for the Aggies, passed away of a stroke in December of 2007. Stunna, what's your thoughts on a guy like Gerard Johnson? Very young football mind, very experienced at the quarterback's position, both playing and coaching wise. Very young age, 35 years old.
I think I would like Gerard if we drafted a quarterback. If we got like a Penix, I mean, we're picking at 26. I can't see us going quarterback. The best thing we could do is reload with Baker and just continue to tool around him. I think the year that we go for a quarterback, we need to trade out of the first round and have 2 first-round picks, and that's the only way we're ever going to be able to get to a quarterback at this point. And let's face it, we really haven't ever drafted a great quarterback other than Doug Williams. And, other than me, most of our listeners weren't alive for that. He did a great job with C.J. Stroud, and he definitely is versed in the vertical passing game. I mean, Texans did a great job, throwing the deep ball. But I want somebody that is more familiar with Baker Mayfield and someone that's going to utilize his talents the best. And like I said, we've already interviewed better, like Philadelphia Eagles coach or coordinator that we interviewed. Johnson, I think his name is.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying, yep, that's him.
Yeah, so Philly is a very good run team. And Todd Bowles, we're trying to win with buck ball. So we're going to need to be able to run the football. Okay. I didn't really see that with Houston. All right, I didn't really notice their prolific rushing attack. I could be wrong, but to me, Houston is a team that opened the running game up with the draws and the screens, and they're more of a vert passing team. Although, I'll be honest, I only watched Houston play twice this year, so it's not like I really did a lot of film study with them, like other bloggers might have done. So my thing is I like him because I like his offense. But again, my focus, maybe not the team's focus, but my focus is getting over that Detroit 49ers hump so we can get back in the Super Bowl. Which seems to be not too hard unless if you're Kansas City, but hard for everyone else.
Yeah, so we got a little bit of breaking news, Stunna, into the world of football in Los Angeles, and the Chargers are hiring Ravens Director of Player Personnel, Joe Horitz, as their new general manager. So the Chargers are now complete GM and coach, and kind of funny, Stunna, he goes from being the player personnel with one Harbaugh brother. Now he's the GM with another Harbaugh brother. That just goes to show you young cats out there, you kids out there, when you get into the coaching and GM world, it's very real that, hey, making connections is always a good thing. And coming from a coach like you, that's a correct way to look at it, right, Stunna?
Yeah, you notice the players are some of the better personnel people. Ozzie Newsome is who built the Ravens system of player personnel and developing those guys. And we see what John Lynch did with the 49ers. Even our own Jason Light was a former collegiate offensive lineman. So I don't know if you noticed, but the guys that played the game recognize the players that can play the game. And you get these pencil necks that never strapped on the cleats or put on a helmet. They usually don't last long, like a Mark Dominic type. Even, our GM that drafted Rondé and them, he played a Jesuit, Rich McKay. So our best player directors here, and as well as the NFL, are guys that actually play the game of football.
I think you make some great points there, Stun. And I want to get into this next topic about our offensive coordinator position. Is again, Chargers did hire a new general manager, but Stunna, I just want to break it down as followed. It's a tricky one, and we might be in a vicious cycle. J-Lo and I talked about it on Friday's show. Hey, nowadays in the NFL, it's 2024. If you have a defensive-minded or special teams-minded head coach, you might put yourself in a position as a franchise to ultimately rinse and repeat every year. And by that, I mean of hire an offensive coordinator. He has a hell of a year. You lose him to a head coaching gig down the road. Now, I'll go through our current candidates, and I'll kind of say it like this. If you hire Antoine Randall L., Jake Peets, Gerard Johnson, or Tad Lewis, and an outside chance at Brian Johnson, although I don't think he gets our offensive coordinator gig. He hasn't really shown much as being an OC. But if you hire Randall L., a Jake Peets, a Gerard Johnson, or a Thad Lewis, Stunna, and they do a hell of a job, as did Canales, given their young ages and given their backgrounds of the game and given all of them ascending in the coaching ranks, the Buccaneers can easily lose a guy like that just next season and be in the same spot for a third year in a row. Now, a guy like Alex Van Pelt, who, I think there's a lot better candidates. Like, I'm a Tad Lewis. Not that I hate Van Pelt, don't get me wrong, but I think he's appealing for a different reason. If you hire Alex Van Pelt as your offensive coordinator, it's very much so guaranteed that no one's going to hire him as their head coach next year. Maybe a guy like Brian Johnson too. So I'm not saying that's all you should take into consideration when you're making this move, Stunna, but perhaps if you bring in a guy like Alex Van Pelt in his mid-50s, he's been around forever and ever, as you said, probably better fitted as a quarterback's coach. I'm sure a lot of teams feel that way as well. If you bring in an Alex Van Pelt, there's a very good chance that you won't lose him to a head coach gig down the road, whereas a Gerard Johnson, an Antoine Randall L., a Tad Lewis, or Jake Peets, one of the younger minds in football, up-and-comers, might be in the same spot as a Dave Canales come 2025. What say you on that, Stunna? Does that matter for this Bucs team, do you think? Are they taking that into consideration where, hey, this guy we want to hire next, we want to try and retain him for as much or as long as we could?
I think overturn is part of football. You're going to have your staff overturned every season, one way or another. That's why it was rare when we won the Super Bowl to be able to keep all our coaches.
Well, fun fact as well, 2022, there is no offensive coordinator on a roster out there that has gone back farther than the year of 2022 of a hiring date, which is kind of mind-blowing.
Exactly. So they're getting plucked out. If you remember, Tony Dungy's staff got plucked apart, and those are all defensive coaches. All right, so it's just the nature of the game. I don't think that Buffalo's going to fire their head coach because he's a defensive coach, and I just like Todd Bowles' style. Obviously you have to continue to succeed, but he's a no excuses type of guy, and it's just he reminds me of kind of like Mike Tomlin. You just roll up your sleeves and get at it, because you could always, you don't want to live in fear. It's like you don't want to be afraid of injuries in football because then they multiply. You don't want to be fear of your staff and hiring somebody qualified, because then you got a bunch of unqualified people, and then you're gonna have to fire them anyway. So I think football is one thing; it's year to year, and you just reset each calendar year and do the best you can do to bring in the best players and the best coaches, and you just take your best crack at that championship. Championship demeanor. It's just like, did Michigan get nervous when they didn't win the national championship, or were they patient with Harbaugh? They were patient because they knew that he was a quality coach and that he was a championship level coach. So I think we just got to be patient. We just got to keep going. with whoever we can, and and as far as the offense, the coach being an offensive coach or a defensive coach, most of the times they're not calling plays anyway, and I think Baltimore's head coach was special teams. So it doesn't really matter their background at the head coaching position. It's more about organization and delegating anyway. So you need to have quality men that people can respect and rally behind, and I think that's the most important thing when we talk about who's the best head coach to have on our squad or as a league as a model.
Now, Stunna, out of the guys we've mentioned yet, or someone we haven't mentioned yet, even, but out of everybody available, who would you hire if you were the general manager and head coach? Who are you giving the keys to the kingdom to for the offensive coordinator position? Either someone we've went over or somebody off the list.
Um, whew, that's shoot, man, I would have to look at who's had the most success against the Saints. Because the problem we've had is that Bucco defense, and they're the only team that's really, hampered us offensively with our players. So I would try to find out who's had the most success against the Saints. But as far as what we talked about, my number one pick would be the guy from the Rams. Number two would be the guy from Philly. Number three would be Antoine Randall, and then number four would be Alex Van Pelt.
So Johnson is that high up on your list? I don't blame you. Everybody is different. Yeah, I'd go with Tad Lewis is my first, just because the familiarity with Baker, the in-house promotion, maybe has the best chance of keeping the Canales offense the same, while dipping into the Arians playbook a little bit. Followed by Jake Peetz. I'm intrigued by Jake Peetz. He's had overlap with Baker. He's a young offensive mind. He's a pass game specialist with the Rams. We've seen what Sean McVay could do with his assistant coaches. So I think he's an interesting one, as Christopher Cole says. Evening, guys. Evening, Christopher. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I guess
I wouldn't mind taking a run at Gruden's brother.
I'm good on Jay Gruden.
Jay Gruden or somebody.
Jay Gruden's getting a little crazy out there if you've paid attention to him lately.
No,
but
I haven't. I just remember that he was he did a good job with Washington. As far as staff development.
Yeah,
But I'm a West Coast offense guy. I'm gonna be real. I love the West Coast offense. Anybody that could run a version of that, which would be Randall, which would be Pete's, or the Johnson. He's not really West Coast guy, but he definitely could help us improve our number 32 ranked rushing attack.
Yeah, and Stana, the Bucs did part ways with the coach today. If anyone did not hear, the Bucs and a coach have decided to move on, and he's been on the staff for a couple of seasons now. But the Bucs did part ways with defensive assistant Mike Chiruko. He was spent 4 years as the assistant to the head coach and moved into a defensive role this past season. Came in with Bruce Arians in 2019. So yeah, a little bit of big news there. The Bucs moving on from a coaching staff point, but it could be because he's going to the Panthers or he's just going somewhere else. But they've decided to part ways, and he's served as a Bucs assistant for 5 seasons now. Thoughts on that? Stunna Mike Chiruko and the Bucs are parting ways.
Ever since Bowles has taken the job, he's been snipping at that D-line position. We just need, D-line is a very important position, coach, and we need the best possible. I just think it's funny, like when Bruce took the job, he said it was because of his staff, but ever since Bowles has taken the job, he's been cutting pieces off the staff. So how much of the staff was Bruce just being that good, that great of a coach? I mean, this Bruce Arians was just an awesome ass coach. But as far as Chiruko, I just think the D line, man, they got to get better. I mean, our edge rushing was a problem, And I just think that we really need to find out what's the issue with our pass rush and our run stuffing.
Yeah, now one more thing, Stunna. It seems like J-Lo, our co-host, is tuning in as he's going to Monday Night Raw tonight. What's up, fellas? Go Bucks. Brad Idzik seems like a hot target for the Panthers staff. What would be your thoughts if we did lose Brad Idzik to their staff with Dave Canales? Nancy's joining us on Facebook as well, but if we lost Idzik, you think that's a big deal or no deal?
I think it's a done deal, honestly, because they'll find a way to get him. And, I think Idzik came with Canales, so he's a good coach, but yeah, home is where the heart is, and one thing about staffs, they usually pull people all the time. Whenever someone gets a job, they start pulling all their, the people they've had contact over the years and pull them in and try to get something done. It's just it's been a real gut wrenching off season, man. I mean, last off season was pretty bad because of wasting Brady's last year. Even though we went to the playoffs, we got blown out. It's kind of funk. This off season, we had success. We could have easily been in the Super Bowl, and now we're getting we got the Carolina purging our staff. We got Atlanta hiring number one player hater Raheem Morris, who likes to cheap shot our players like Gronk, and it's just depressing because it just got a lot harder. But hopefully we can get some players in here that can make us more competitive, especially with the 26th pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah, and you guys are all tuned into the Buccateers podcast. Tampa Tones and Stunna taking you through our offensive coordinator search on this fine Monday. Stunna, I do want to get your thoughts on the Super Bowl matchup. We know it's all but locked in now. San Fran against the Fighting Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and that whole ordeal over there. But Vegas, 13 nights from tonight, who do you like? San Fran, Kansas City?
Well, this is a rematch, and I like the original victor to get it again. This will give Mahomes his third ring. They call him Baby Goat. I guess he can shake the baby label. He's a great quarterback.
He's not the GOAT yet, and even if he wins, I don't think he'll be the GOAT. I mean,
well, if you look at Brady's career, he had two different runs of 3 Super Bowls that they call 2 dynasties. All right. Is the last Super Bowls he was beating the Rams like 13-10 and stuff. It wasn't like an offensive prowess. Now in the middle, he did lose to the Giants.
They had no weapons at that point, the Patriots, and Mahomes is going to be in a lot of trouble when Andy Reid leaves, and that could come as soon as this offseason.
Yeah, I don't think Andy Reid's going to leave this offseason. I mean, he's had so much problems in his personal life. I think that football is the one thing maintaining his level of health. But,
I kind of agree there, and he's only 65 years old. It's not like
he ain't going nowhere. I don't know why do people try to push great people out the door, man? Just let that man coach. I have a problem with that around here with some of our callers talking about, oh, we need to get rid of Shaq Barrett. I was like, why? Because he's lost a stat. Well, guess what? You get rid of him, you're paying dead cap money. We didn't see what that was like this whole season. It's just been letting the man finish his contract out. And I used to say the same thing. People want to push Vincent Jackson out the door. And I'm like, why? He lost a step. Well, he's 30-some years old. Let him finish his contract out, So I don't know what Andy Reid's contract is like. Let the man finish the contract out.
So you like the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl?
I'm picking the Chiefs. I'll take the Chiefs by 7.
Yeah, right now I got the Niners by 3. I'm going to roll with the 49ers. They've been the comeback kids. They came back against the Packers. They came back against the Lions, and they're our last hope to defeat the almighty Taylor Swift. So give me the 49ers in a battle with Kansas City that happens to take place in Las Vegas in 13.
What is your favorite part of the Niners, their offense or their defense?
I like both, but offense I think is more superior when you're trying to game plan and cover that 49ers offense, there's a little too much trouble on that side of the ball. You got Kittle, you got Debo, you got Ayuk, you got McCaffrey, you got Trent Williams, right? It's like playing a game of whack-a-mole to see who you might have to cover over there. I do like their defense as well, but a couple more holes on that side of the ball. I think we've seen the Lions exploit them defensively a little bit yesterday. So give me their offense. And what concerns me most is their rookie kicker, Jake Moody. He's been a little inconsistent this year as well, the rookie from Michigan. But yeah, I like the Niners right now by about 3 points. That's who I would roll with if the Super Bowl were tomorrow. I'd put a little bit of cheddar down on that 49ers-led offense. Man, you could have 5 great defenders, and that still wouldn't be enough to cover all those 49er weapons. And Stunna, for those out there asking, hey, your award show, what happened? We were going to run it yesterday, but we want to make sure we get all the Buccateers there. So we're going to plan it either tomorrow night or Wednesday night. Time to be announced. But the Buccateers 2023-2024 award show will be either tomorrow or Wednesday night. Time to come. We got awards for the Bucs team. We got awards for the media. We got awards for the Buccateers podcast itself. So, Stunna, that'll be a fun one, doing all those awards. Always kind of a fun way to wrap up.
You got my vote for Podcaster of the Year, Mr. Tones.
Hey, I appreciate that. I got 1 vote out there. Let's go. That's really awesome of you. I appreciate you there, Stunna. So I guess I won. I guess I got an award. Stunna says Podcaster of the Year right here. Stunna, speaking of the year, we are in the year 2024, Stunna, and we're going to have a great offseason here on the Buccateers. We're going to implement some new shows such as Man Cave Monday in the near future, which we get a guy who collects Bucs memorabilia, and we're going to get him on to talk about Bucs man caves and Bucs just news if it is happening that day. Then we're going to do another thing as well when it gets a little dry and kind of dive in to the history of the Bucs. With guys like you and Katz here, I think we could really have some good history episodes, history shows, dive deep into the land of Tampa. What say you on the off season? And any final words for the program tonight, Stunna, as it's been a beautiful Monday talking offensive coordinators with you, my brother?
I don't think any podcast gave out more memorabilia than the Buccateers podcast. And that's how you know that our listeners are valuable, because they were given some awesome memorabilia.
We value our listeners, man. We love
value them. That's right. Exactly. We value our listeners. We respect them as their fandom. And we expect them to hoist the sails and fire the cannons. The off season is always a time of great anticipation, and also, it's a time to get other things done because it moves very slowly. I think we don't get free agency until like the middle of March. I don't think we get the NFL draft until the end of April. So it really won't be until the end of April, and this being like almost the beginning of February at the end of this week. So, we're talking about 3 months' time until we know what kind of team we're going to have in the future. I think the biggest thing is they got to re-sign Mike Evans. I've said all year on the podcast that I was pissed off that they didn't do it before the season. What the heck do you need to see more from Mike Evans? This dude is legendary around here. He's just like Warren Sapp to me, and they screwed that up too. They could have easily extended Warren for another 2 years. Okay. We got to learn from our mistakes. We let John Lynch go. We let Warren Sapp go. Let's not keep making dumb mistakes. Sign Mike Evans, man. I don't care if you overpay for him. He's getting overpaid by our fans in our city, and he's a hero in the city. All right.
Yeah, we got a couple comments quick, and Stunna, I want to get to your thoughts on one of these. You guys care about the fans, and it matters. People usually only read comments if they donate. We appreciate that, Cleve and me, and that's the truth. If you look at other podcasts, YouTube out there, people are only reading the damn comments.
Like a super chat. We don't have no super chat. We got Bucs chat.
Yeah, we got Bucs chat, not a super chat. Speaking of super, though, we got the Senior Bowl this weekend. Thoughts on that stuff? You're a big Senior Bowl guy.
You know, I'm a huge Senior Bowl fan. There's two things that I always judge the offseason by, which is the Senior Bowl and the NFL Combine. I would love to, I don't think we can visit the NFL Combine as fans, but I would like to go one year to the Senior Bowl. I always say that one of these years when I get my money right, which is pretty much never, but especially in today's economy, dang sure ain't happening this year. But love the Senior Bowl. I think it's the best competition. I think some of our guys that we drafted in the past have always showed out in the Senior Bowl. And some of the guys that I wanted us to draft in the past that we might have missed by not getting, or they got picked before we got the draft, and it made me upset, are guys that were standouts at the Senior Bowl.
We've
The one
drafted a Senior Bowl guy, the past 4 or 5 seasons now?
Yeah, we're always going to draft somebody from there because the best players are going to be there. But I think the one year that, and the thing that pisses me off is they don't let us coach the Senior Bowl anymore. Let us send our staff out there so we can get an eye and a hands on these young people coming up. But I think remember the year when Ali Marpet and Donovan Smith were in the Senior Bowl and we drafted them both. And they both impressed me a lot in the Senior Bowl watching it. So I know that we made some real moves out of the Senior Bowl in the past. I would love to be there. I would love to interview the guys and be like, how would you feel if the Buccaneers drafted you? And just see how random college football players feel about our football team or the city of Tampa, the city I love. But I'm excited about the Senior Bowl. I'm encouraged about this offseason, but I'm also very anxious. Picking 26, I don't know if we should pick. I don't know if we should trade out of the first round and try to collect more second and third round picks. It's just a real quandary right now. Let the draft fall to you, dry down. It's a lot of question marks. So I really don't know. I'm really kind of nervous. And also with that nervous energy comes excitement as well.
As Cleveland Me says, Colts love drafting standout Senior Bowl players. Christopher Cole says there's some good-looking centers and guards out there. We did draft Hainsey from the Senior Bowl, and Zach Frazier, nephew of Zach Johnson, who's a friend of the shows, was on the show before. He has a man cave. We had a special with him, center at West Virginia. He's looking really good in the Senior Bowl as well. So Stunna and I will cover the Senior Bowl here over the next week or so. We're going to continue to dive deep into the Senior Bowl and do some good things there. But my final word for the program is just stay up to date with the Bucs all off season right here on the Buccateers. Turn your notification bell on, damn it, so you're not like a lot of people and you miss out on the show. If you turn your notification bell on, you subscribe to us, you'll join us right away. You'll get a notification every time we go live for a show. But stick with the Buccateers and be on the lookout for our 2023 award show, which should take place here either Tuesday or Wednesday night. Stun, any last thoughts for the podcast on this Monday night, my friend?
I'm going to say we need a free safety or offensive interior lineman at pick 26. I want to know what the fans think. We want to know if we're going to cover the Senior Bowl, what position groups do you want us to evaluate? What position groups do you want us to give you feedback on? We're a player. We are a caller or a listener run show. We like to hear what our fans think of the Buccateers. We like to support our fans of the Buccateers with Buccaneer merchandise. We like to tell stories of Buccaneer great moments with our fans. Let us know who you want us to evaluate. Let us know who you want us to draft.
Yeah, and Stunna, I think something happened there to the big Stunna, but let us know who you want to draft. Let us know. Yup, drafted Mock and Yaya from the Senior Bowl, and then Hainsey came from the Senior Bowl. Bucs are always killing it in the Senior Bowl, but let us know who you want to draft, guys, over the coming weeks from the Senior Bowl, from other outlets as well. It's been a beautiful Monday here on the Buccateers. Keep up with us on X at Buccateers, Buccateers. Keep up with us on Instagram at Buccateers Pod, or keep up with us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, and so much more at Buccateers Podcast. It's been a beautiful show. Stunna and Tampa Tones here. We will catch you on the flip side. Next stop, the Buccaneers Award Show. Obviously, if we have any news to break, we'll get into that as well. But Stunna and Tones here. God bless on a Monday night. Tones Decker off here. Fire the damn cannons. Go Bucs. Go Bucs. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Let's go. See you guys next time on the Buccateers. Game on Sunday, man. I know you're nervous for the Rams, but you got to be a little enthusiastic after being there.
Bro, that game atmosphere was just ridiculous. The energy, the electricity. That place was rocking. Anyone was there, and a lot of the Super Buck fans were there too. The Bucs.
Tampa Tones. We are joined by Lead Goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron Show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little cleared. But we're joined by Pat
It looks like
Donovan.
Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.